Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the commentary session. I'm Dr. John Oyston. I'm pleased to be here with Dr. Brad Radu and David Sweener. So I thank the Global Forum on Nicotine for asking me to do this session. And I must admit, when I first was invited, my first thought was, this is just a great opportunity to spend half an hour with a couple of people that I admire, to chat to them without any other interruptions or distractions, nobody tapping anybody on the shoulder and saying, you have to come and do this, you have to go and do that. So one of the things I really enjoy about this meeting is that we have so many people from so many different countries and different walks of life who all join together because we believe in the cause of reducing the death, disease, and disability caused by tobacco smoking, and we believe that consumers have the right to be educated about alternative sources. But it's intriguing to me to find out exactly what paths people have followed and how their lives have taken them to the fact that we're all here in Warsaw talking about nicotine reduction, at the Global Forum on Nicotine. So first of all, David Sweener is from Ottawa. He's a lawyer. I believe he's the first lawyer in the world to dedicate himself to tobacco control issues. So I'd like to ask you, David, how was it, at what stage in your legal career did you decide that this is the aspect of law that interested you and this is what you're going to dedicate your career to?
Well, I mean, very early on, I mean, I started off doing my articles at a corporate commercial law firm in downtown Toronto. Quickly decided that that was very boring, and I was very interested in policy change and issues of health. And this one just stuck out in that already cigarette smoking was our leading cause of preventable death. Science had shown us that so clearly. So the information of the scientists and the doctors is that this is a horrendous cause of death and disease. This is what was filling our hospitals. This is why people were watching patients die. And then the idea that scientists and doctors are really good at identifying what's making people sick. But dealing with it is a social, legal, political issue. We needed policy. And that's the sort of stuff that lawyers, politicians can do something about. So that's what got me involved in the policy. And as you said, I was the first lawyer in the world to work full-time on policy measures to reduce cigarette smoking. And I think the work must be addictive because I've stuck with it.
As far as you know, are you the only lawyer here today?
Oh, I assume that there's other lawyers, and I've even thought about it, but it's become quite a common area. There's a tremendous number of lawyers now working on issues dealing with tobacco and nicotine.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Radu, so until yesterday, I assumed that simply because you had a title doctor and that you were a professor of medicine, that you were in fact, like myself, a physician. So I found out the other day that you're a dentist. So that makes it perhaps all the more intriguing. So do you want to explain how that came about?
Sure, John. I'm a dentist, but I never practiced dentistry. I specialized right away in pathology, and from there took a position at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, where I took care of hundreds of cancer patients. Most of those cancers derive from a career of smoking. So I saw all of the lethal side effects. I diagnosed their cancers under microscope. I saw them clinically after horrendous chemotherapy and radiation treatments. I was part of a team. So like you, the deadly effects of smoking brought me to try to search for another way for smokers to quit without abstaining completely from nicotine and tobacco.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So congratulations on your award. And obviously one of the things you're most well known for is your takedown of the Stan Glantz article on cigarette smoking, on vaping and heart attacks. So I have this image in my mind that one day you came across this article and you thought, there's something a little fishy here. And then you went into your office and you thought, I'm going to have like a really boring couple of days wading into some data. And then suddenly you had this eureka moment when you realized that he was counting people who had heart attacks before they started vaping into his data. Is that how it worked, or have I completely idealized the whole thing?
No, you were pretty accurate. We're finding now that the effects or the supposed effects of vaping have been so exaggerated that it's hard to believe that some of the effects are real. And with the heart attack, the heart attack study, the problem was that most vapors are also smokers. That's been the problem for many of these studies, is the confounding of any effects you might blame on vaping from their prior cigarette smoking. So that was what I first started to examine. But then I discovered in the actual data that a lot of these heart attacks had occurred on average 10 years before the person reported even picking up his first cigarette. And
First vape.
First vape.
Yeah.
Or sorry,
No.
sorry, first vape, first e-cigarette. And I mean, I checked the data twice, had my colleague check the data because I thought something was wrong. I had miscoded something, but I hadn't. And we decided that this was not just exaggeration, but pure fraud in reporting research results. You can't be wrong about this. This has to be a false result. And so we decided that we had to contact the journal. We usually are very patient, wait 6-8 months for a journal to respond. But this time I also spoke with media and decided that we needed to, this needed to be corrected far before millions of vapors thought it was better for them to go back to smoking.
Well, and instead, I actually had a chance to talk to Stan Glantz about this, I think in January or February of 2020, when he was at the Ottawa Model for Smoking Cessation Conference. And at that stage, he stood by it entirely. He just said, you know, this is how the project's done, this is how I did it, this is normal for epidemiological studies, and he was quite unabashed by the whole thing, which I found quite fascinating.
Stan stands by everything he's done, and he never gives an inch on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've known Stan for decades, and he did a lot of key work dealing with issues of secondhand smoke. And because of the work I was doing, protect non-smokers,
Right.
you know, I would look at that. But then as a lawyer, one of the ways I look at anything that I'm going to use is, how would I feel if I were in court trying to justify legislation I've helped get passed
Right,
based on any particular piece of research?
right,
When I'm being cross-examined by competent counsel.
right.
And the more I looked at Stan's stuff, the more I thought, I will never use anything by Stan,
Right.
because any competent counsel could just absolutely rip you to pieces for paying attention to the sort of stuff that he does.
Right. So in Brad's case, that was one of the pieces of work that first brought you to my attention, and I think it's one of the things, you know, that you're going to go down and be remembered for. I just wondered, David, is there an equivalent in your life? Is there something that you're particularly proud of, or something that stands out more than anything else that you've done?
Well, I think trying to figure out things at a macro level. I mean, I'm certainly very proud of things I did on some of the litigation against the cigarette companies on various things that they were up to, particularly on contraband. Absolutely fascinating work. You know, global, very large sums of money involved, really top-notch people in pulling together the information necessary, and we changed the market. I mean, much of the anti-smoking community didn't understand what that litigation did,
Yeah.
Which is too bad, because we could have had far more effect. But it was very, very interesting. But I've had many of those experiences because I've had, 40 years doing this. So
Right.
there's a lot of things that you see as being really beneficial. And then there's a lot of these road to Damascus sort of moments where you reevaluate things that you're doing and say, we need to do a better job here, or what I believe to be the case no longer is.
Right.
There's enough science that's developed where I've got better information
Right.
to say some of the things that I'd been promoting or believed in just simply weren't true,
Right.
including on things like how many people quit smoking successfully with a quit attempt. Early in my career, the line we got from the public education people with major health charities,
Right.
and keep in mind, I'm a lawyer, right? I'm
Right.
not a doctor, I'm
Yeah.
not a cessation expert.
Right.
I had to go with the information people gave me
Yeah.
to get policy.
Right.
And I was told every time somebody tries to quit, they have a 1 in 5 chance of success.
Right.
Every time. And I thought, well, so I just conceptualized that as just, you spin a dial.
Right, yeah.
And you got a 1 in 5 chance every time. Like, this is easy. Just keep doing things to motivate people to try to quit.
Right.
And then a late colleague, Dr. John Slade, convinced me to go to a meeting of the American Society of Addiction Medicine because I clearly knew lots about tobacco and I should be talking to these people. And I walked into a room and the first poster I saw was somebody talking about the chance of success of an unaided quit attempt being 5%.
Right.
Now, I'm a lawyer, so of course I assume I know more medicine than any doctor.
Right.
And I go over to the poster to say, that's not right. And she turns to me and says, yes, you're right. It's actually about 3%.
Yeah.
And that was right.
Yeah.
And I thought, so what are we doing? Because if the average success rate of an unaided quit attempt is 3%, and we all know people who had no problem at all quitting. So I used to smoke 2 packs a day, and then one day I just decided I'm not going to do it, and I left a pack on my desk, I left a pack on my car, I left a pack in my office at home, and I never had another one. That means there's other people, including people who had been calling into me anytime I'd be on a radio phone-in show.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what the topic was. Some people are wanting advice on quitting smoking. And some of them, they were never going to be able to quit smoking. At least they were never going to get off nicotine.
Right, yeah.
And telling them that they could was just cruel.
Right.
It's like telling somebody you don't have to worry about people coming here to beat you up. You just have to jump over that 6-foot-high fence.
Right.
And maybe, maybe they can't jump that high.
Right.
Maybe physiologically they just can't do it. And if you're just saying, hurry up or you're going to get beat up, that's only making their life worse.
Sure.
So I think it's trying to understand, now what do we do? Because you can't just do the abstinence-only thing.
Right.
That there's many people, there's reasons why they are not able to just completely quit using nicotine.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, for scheduling reasons, I missed the session on McCarthyism. But in the spirit of that, I have to ask you both, are you now, or have you ever been, a smoker or a vapor? Brad?
Well, I think that session was about people, including myself, who have taken an unusual and uncommon stand
Right.
that hasn't been endorsed by the medical community at large.
Right.
And we've taken our hits for it.
Yeah.
We've taken a lot of criticism and in some cases some additional punishments. And so that's becoming a kind of a common theme. And I think it's an example of, we've seen it in other fields.
Right.
The gentleman, and you may know this better than me, the gentleman that discovered Haemophilus, or the gastric ulcer.
Yeah, right, yeah. H. pylori.
Bacteria, yes, exactly. It took it for years trying to get that bug treated with antibiotics, and now it's standard treatment.
But I have to do my lawyer interpretation and ask for a yes or no answer. Have you ever been a smoker or a vapor?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Neither?
No. No. Nicotine doesn't do it for me, but don't take my coffee away.
Okay. And David, how
Well,
about you?
I mean, we have to be totally frank on this, in part because I'm soon to be calling the person who played the role in this. When I was 7, me and my friends had found a pack of cigarettes and decided to smoke them. And my mother found us. And she said, as the other kids ran away, I had nowhere to go because we were at my house. And she said, David, you're 7 years old. You're all grown up now. If you want to smoke a cigarette, you can. I mean, your dad and I don't. Nobody else in the family does. But if you want to, go right ahead. You just have to do it properly. You want to inhale it deep into your lungs. Go ahead. Never had another cigarette. Never had, and Mom's about to turn 99, and I thank her frequently for having done that. That was my one smoking experience.
And have you ever vaped?
No.
Okay.
Well, I've probably tried vaping products when people had talked about them, but never been an actual vapor.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to Brad. So what have you learned from the conference so far? What's been a highlight for you up to date?
Well, it reflects what Dave said earlier, that or what you said, there's a large contingent of people from all walks of life here. And I learn a lot by talking to people that aren't just like me. So much in tobacco control is in a a vacuum, and they're only talking to each other. Where here we're talking to all kinds of folks that are professionals, they're interested in harm reduction, they're vapors, and it's the vaping community. And I think that's very educational. I always learn a lot. For example, earlier this afternoon, a vapor described to me that just before he was diagnosed with COPD, he quit smoking and started vaping, and it was totally stabilized. And he's now a physical trainer. He's in great shape. This was several years ago, and that's an amazing story because, as you know, John, dying from COPD is no fun at all.
And the thing is that we know from work done by Ricardo Peloso, that people with COPD, they get better, both objectively and subjectively, if they switch from smoking to vaping. And yet that doesn't seem to be part of the protocols for treating COPD.
Yeah.
So David, the same question, what have you learned recently?
Well, I've come to all these meetings other than the virtual ones the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I learn an awful lot here. As Brad was saying, you've got such a cross-section of people from, whether they're consumers who are saying, this saved my life, I want to work with others. You've got people who are public health. You've got some people who are involved on the business side of this. You also have people who see this as an entrepreneurial or scientific a quest. How do you get better products? And that's the stuff that has constantly blown me away here. The people I meet who have ideas for new products can get people off cigarettes and replace cigarettes.
Yep.
And the idea that, as someone who spent so much of my career dealing with the economics of smoking, and how do you change the economics, to consider that worldwide, people are spending over 800 billion American dollars a year, like over $1 trillion of our Canadian dollars a year, buying cigarettes.
Yep.
That is an enormous market.
Yep.
And if you got even a fraction of 1% of that market, it's a really viable business. So what we see is the potential to segment the market. You don't need one thing to replace cigarettes. It's a mistake some governments make to say, we'll allow this product but nothing else. It's going to get segmented probably the way the caffeine market got segmented.
Yep.
You can buy all sorts of different types of coffee and tea and chocolates and colas. And will we be seeing ever more diversification of sources where somebody can say, this person is clearly self-medicating with nicotine to treat a psychiatric condition such as schizophrenia. They need to have some sort of pharmaceutical product that meets that need. And that's a multi-billion-dollar market.
Yep.
There's other people who will find snus to be totally acceptable. They need to have it.
Yep.
Other people want modern oral. Some people want the heated tobacco product. Some people want some combination of these things. And some people, it's sort of like, early in the day of mobile technology, there's a huge unmet demand for products nobody knows about yet. We just need to allow that entrepreneurial activity to go on in a regulatory environment that encourages the replacement of cigarettes, just like we had a regulatory environment that encouraged to move away from snake oil to science-based pharmaceuticals, or from impure food to sanitary food, or from unsafe automobiles to safer automobiles. We're going to see that happen, and you can watch it in real time here with the people with their ideas.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm getting a warning that my time is up. So I'd like to thank you both very much, and we'll keep on the conversation. And we have one more day, so I hope we'll have a great time tomorrow as well.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much for participating.
Great chatting with you.
Yeah.